All right. So the thing I found out about working out is, you want to work out, but then you get sore. And then you don't want to work out anymore. Okay, anyway. Thanks for listening to that. So it's time to move along. We give everybody maybe 30 seconds more to get in and get into your seats. Are you having a good time? Are you enjoying this? You learning a thing or two? Getting a chance to share some knowledge? Do a brain dump? I know that's what's going on. Man, I have learned a whole massive amount. And this is just the first day. We'll be here tomorrow as well to learn even more. And so if you can make it, we invite you to come back, and it's going to be, I think, even better. Because now we've gained, a little bit of knowledge, and then we're adding to that. And so it's a give and take as you give your ear. And so we want you to give a nice round of applause for our next participants in our next panel. The topic is global reparations, xenophobia, and the corruption of black culture. So please put your hands together for Gina Roscoe, Ingrid LaFleur, Ama Nyamike, and give them a big round of applause. That's right. We've been requesting the girl, the lady power now. We finally got it. That's how quick blockchain works. And ladies, take it away.
Is anyone moderating? You're moderating? I'm not moderating. Nobody's moderating.
Who's moderating?
Okay. Sweet. We're decentralized. Hello, good afternoon. How are you today? Have you been learning a lot? It's been very interesting for me. My name is Ingrid LaFleur. I'm the Director of Social Impact for the Detroit Blockchain Center. I am developing a social impact project that will help support mesh networks going up in Detroit because 40% of Detroiters do not have access to internet. And this is very much really speaks to the larger issue of the lack of digital literacy. And when we're thinking about global reparations and xenophobia, I think about our digital literacy. So I just came back from Lagos, and prior to that, I was in Accra with Tavana Evans. We were at the same conference, Black Tech Women Conference. I want to say that because it happens every year, and please look out for it and support it. It's really wonderful that they're like galvanizing women within the blockchain space. But there were a couple things that came about. First of all, I was definitely in Nigeria when all of the attacks were happening in South Africa. So I just want to say it is extremely heartbreaking and scary and frustrating that is happening on our continent, where I see myself, see it as a place of refuge. The xenophobia that is happening in South Africa, many of us might have heard the statistic, that 85% of the wealth in South Africa is held by 8.7% of the population, which is white. So the frustration that is being directed in the wrong space, in the wrong people, but at the same time, it should never be violent. We should be way more strategic about it. So currently, we have people who are literally fighting over scraps, are the lowest denominator, and fighting their brothers and sisters, and upholding these borders that were imposed upon them. So that has been the conversation that I was engaged in when I was in Lagos. And so how do we move around, like how do we get beyond that? So another conversation that I had when I went to a cyber chain in Lagos, cybersecurity and blockchain technology, was ultimately it comes down to we need more people working in the tech space Because if we're going to be thinking about cryptocurrencies, if we're thinking about creating our own exchanges, if we're thinking about the many uses of blockchain technology, we need blockchain developers. We really don't have any. It is scarce in a place like Nigeria, where there's 22 million people in Lagos alone. And there's just not enough developers. If we're going to be innovating and creating and thinking of ways to distribute wealth equitably, then we need people who are informed. And this is why I do the work to make sure that our youth have access to high-speed internet so that they can explore, so that they can play with and figure it out, so that when they're older, they are well-equipped to be able to address some of the challenges within our communities using this really wonderful tech. So I'm going to end there, and I'm going to pass it along.
Okay. Greetings, everybody. My name is Ama Nyamache. I'm an Akomfo, which is I'm a trained traditional healer in the Akan tradition. I am also born and raised in the U.S., definitely connecting to my culture, my identity on the continent as well. I'm also president and CEO of Destiny Bound Wellness Institute, which is an organization that seeks to restore the identity, cultural identity of African people, with that meaning that understanding that culture is our life force. It is the air that we breathe, it's the food that we eat, it's the relationships that we form and cultivate, that without our culture, our mindset is lost. Without our identity, we could not have the wherewithal to even formulate how can we take care of ourselves as a people. And so with the institution, I do this through different means, through community organizing around rites of passage for adolescents, girls as well as women, through workshops around culture and identity, as well as trainings, and providing just an avenue for people to understand their culture. And so in terms of just the significance of it. And we're talking about the issue around global reparations. I just wanted to share with you just quickly the 10 points from the National African American Reparations Commission in terms of the 10 points in their plan. And this global and national, the global one, it comes out of the Caribbean in terms of looking at this global issue of colonialism and how it impacts African people throughout the diaspora through the disbursement. And then even here in the US, in terms of this being a settler colony. And so generally, I'm just going to talk about, just to identify what those 10 points are. One is having a full and formal apology. Not that you're asking for any handout, but a formal apology. And what that apology does to the psyche of a person is they're saying that, they're acknowledging that there's a problem. We did this to African people. So there's something about the psychology of admitting. So this is one of the first things that's on both of them in terms of these, the 10 points. The second one is also in terms of the right of repatriation. The third, Indigenous Peoples Development Program. Fourth, having cultural institutions. 5, public health, that there's addressing a public health crisis. The 6, illiteracy eradication. 7, African Knowledge Program. 8, psychological rehabilitation. 9, technology transfer. 10, debt cancellation. And there are also, in terms of here on the U.S. side, the issue of dealing with health, wellness, and healing for Black families and communities and what that means. So with that, I would also like to talk about, in terms of even addressing xenophobia and the corruption of Black culture, is the issue of what we call, what a lot of scholars have different definitions of calling post-traumatic slave syndrome, present and consistent traumatic syndrome, meaning that it has never ended. So when we're talking about the issue of reparations, it talks about on one aspect, what has been done to us as a people, but also what continues to be done. So it's not just something that's in the past, it's also something now that is continuing. And so the definition around post-traumatic slave syndrome is from Dr. DeGroove's work with the same title, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, is a multi-generational trauma together with continued oppression and absence of opportunity to access the benefits available to the society. So just kind of wanted to just put that definition out there. And that one of the other things is in terms of, with that is a sense of cognitive dissonance. So when you are faced with something that you've done wrong to a group of people, you kind of ignore it or make it something that is not as a serious nature to kind of appease yourself, right? So what's important for us to recognize is one of the things that's important for us to recognize our role in terms of what we have to do is in terms of, and I'm coming from this from the behavioral component, is in terms of the psyche to address our behavior. That in terms of reparations for us, we don't need to sit at the table. We create our own table. You come and sit and talk to us about what it is that we want. So that's a different mindset. So it's not that we create what is wealth. We define what is wealth. It's not the green paper or the purple piece of paper, whatever it is that has the value associated with it. It's how are we defining things for ourselves in our perspective. So when we're talking about global reparations and even the corruption of culture, we have to keep those ideas in the forefront. Who defines your reality? Whose culture are you defining? And so what's important when it talks about the corruption of culture, and I'm just going to leave these components when we're talking about culture. And think about this when in anything that you think, say, or do, is the perception. What culture helps to determine our lens of perception and cognition. That's fundamental and foundational. And it also provides a motivation of human behavior. What is it that motivates you to do a particular thing? Third is evaluation. How are you analyzing? What lens are you using to analyze what it is that we're doing around organizing, around sovereignty, around establishing businesses, and around creating wealth? And it provides the basics of identity in terms of how you see yourself. So I always say, whose culture and whose worldview are you ascribing to in whatever it is that you think, say, or do? It's a mode of communication. Culture is a mode of communication. So we cannot be limited only by the words. Oftentimes people will say, if you're born here in the US, you're not African. When did that happen? When did you not become African? Was it when we came over here? Was it during Jim Crow? What is it that divides it? Oh, because you don't speak the language. You're not born there. No, you're still African. It's in your spirit. It's in your DNA. So the other thing, it serves as a basis of stratification. Any particular culture. And it also influences the system of production and consumption, what we're talking about now. What are we producing and what are we consuming? Are we producers? Are we consumers? So when we're talking about the destruction of Black culture, we have to understand the function of it and think about the definitions. So I'll stop right there. Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Janae Roscoe. I am representing John Hope Bryant, who is the founder, chairman, CEO of Operation Hope. I run their government affairs and public policy shop here out of Washington, D.C. We were founded about 27 years ago in L.A. after the riots. It's now headquartered out of Atlanta, and how I'm approaching this from a financial inclusion fintech space is going to sort of pick up from the last panel. And there's a website that we created called freedmansbank.org, FREEDMANS, bank.org. And we're picking up on the legacy of the first creation of access to capital after we became free in 1863 with the creation of the Freedmen's Bank. It gave us our first leveraged opportunity to create black banks, to create economic wealth for our communities, and we sort of picked up the legacy of that. So you're kind of asking the question, what does that have to do with Bitcoin and blockchain? Well, it has to do with, something said earlier about digital literacy. And the new form of access to capital is Bitcoin and blockchains. And when you think about, how many people have heard the term fintech? Well, here you are. The U.S. Treasury Department here in the United States has defined fintech as a new space for consideration around community reinvestment. I'm sure people have heard of CRA as it pertains to mainstream banking. Well, there's conversations about how in the fintech space do you incorporate this new blockchain, Bitcoin phenomenon to the equation. So we are very much involved in that. But I want to get to why am I talking about it from a global reparations standpoint, and where's the vested interest as it pertains to fintech and CRA. Well, have any of you heard of the World Bank and the IMF's Universal Financial Access 2020 campaign? It's called UFA, the Universal Financial Access 2020 campaign. And this is where I want to sort of pick up from the last panel. You've got about over 30 companies, most of them financial institutions, that made a campaign after some reports that Gallup and the World Bank and IMF provided that half of the billions of global citizens in this world are unbanked or underbanked and lack access to capital. Not just here in developed countries, but mainly in developing countries. And so with that said, you had about 30 some odd groups, most of them from the United States, a couple from Europe, and a lot of financial institutions from other developing countries. Well, that conversation started in 2011. In 2011, 1.2 billion people opened financial accounts through mobile apps. 1.7 billion started to open them by 2014. And in Africa, the sub-Saharan part of Africa, it's the global leader in money mobile transaction accounts. And that is how sub-Saharan Africa is inventing itself into the access to capital space. It ties into the last conversation because there are two major U.S. companies that have invested in the campaign. Has anyone heard of Visa or MasterCard? Well, Visa and MasterCard created a Bitcoin currency, and they tied it in with a company called Paxful. They are tying in, has anyone heard of the One Vanilla card, gift card? Well, that's their Bitcoin they're using in sub-Saharan Africa. They've converted the One Vanilla gift card into a Bitcoin. And to sort of build on the conversations about JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo and hearing about Bank of America buying all of these patents, well, MasterCard and Visa was part of that equation. And what they did is took the Universal Financial Access campaign, looking to convert people into access to capital accounts, and leveraged the phenomena that if sub-Saharan Africa, they weren't really feeling traditional banking the same way we do it in developing countries. They found the mobile money transaction opportunity a win-win for them. And so Visa and MasterCard found a unique way to say, hey, we're going to catch on to this conversation too. And so when we are looking at ourselves as global citizens, and you hear about these global campaigns around helping people around financial inclusion and financial access to capital. I've been here pretty much from the beginning, and there have been some great conversations about education and financial literacy and digital literacy and the significance of all of that. And there is a large portion of our mainstream financial institutions getting into this campaign in the global sense of it. But if there are people of color who are creating Bitcoins and blockchain movements like we heard from Guap, then look to sub-Saharan Africa and their uniqueness around embracing mobile money as an opportunity to take our opportunity in America to help sub-Saharan Africa. As you said, we all are Africans. Mm-hmm. Why not find a way to connect what we're doing here with the interest of helping people in other countries gain access to capital through Bitcoin and the blockchain movement? Close to 10% of the GDP in sub-Saharan Africa comes through mobile marketing. That's a lot. It is beginning to take over from remittance.
No, he's pointing to me.
For the whole
10
panel.
minutes for the whole panel? Okay. I guess
We should probably,
yeah.
and then we need questions, right?
Yep. The final point I want to make about this is if we know that they're promoting financial inclusion and we're trying to reach 1 billion people around the country, around the world, and sub-Saharan Africa is one of the largest areas on focus for that. That should be a focus for the Bitcoin, the blockchain summit initiative.
Harambe, good evening. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I was just trying to see if you were paying attention. Happy Easter. I am just so happy to be at this conference, you know, seeing young people around me. I'm an old woman. Been out here for a few years. I'm a community organizer. I flew up from Gainesville, Florida, only because Sinclair Skinner never gives up. I told him I was tired. I didn't really want to come, but, you know, I wanted to be around him and around y'all to see if I could learn a few things. I used to live here. I lived here in D.C. for 30 years. Had a bookstore right on U Street, Sister Space and Books. And, you know, it was part of what was happening from 1982 until 2004 when I went back home. And like I said, right now I'm a community organizer and I'm missing my children. I show up at the bookstore, at the bus stop, 6:45, and leave at 7:15. And in between that little time, I teach them Black history. When I moved back home, they were on a CD level, CDF level, and now we have AB students because they feel good, they feel empowered because of the Black history. So what I'm trying to promote is, I don't know much about Bitcoin, but I'm learning, but I do know quite a bit about Black history. And so I'm encouraging you to, you know, always include Blackness in whatever you do, because it makes a big impact. Not just like what the sister said, psychologically. You know, when people apologize to us, that's one thing, but can we just hold on to our spirit without anybody apologizing to us? Because I don't need your apology, because I have enough self-esteem and I have enough Black history and I know what we're about. I know what we could have been if you hadn't enslaved us. And so, you know, when we take that back, we can make things happen. I'm not going to be long. I'm going to just say two more things. When you talk about xenophobia, you usually also find out that the person who has xenophobia also has homophobia. When you talk about homophobia, you also find out they're also anti-woman, anti-feminist. How can you be a revolutionary if you're against everything? How can you really be serious about making progress when, you don't have sisters on the panel? Because we always been balanced people. So, when you have a panel discussion and it's all men, or if you go to, some other conferences and all women, something is missing. So I just wanted to, I wanted to applaud the sister who was up here earlier who pointed that out. Because we've always, in terms of black people, always had a balance. And I am a feminist and proud of it. And if you want to talk to me about it, I'll be happy to do that after this discussion. But really what I want to focus on is they said corruption of black culture. I'm not really sure what that means, but I do know about the elimination of black culture. And I'm just going to talk about my bookstore, because when you get rid of the strongest people on the block, and we were the strongest, a black woman feminist bookstore in Washington, D.C., 1994 to 2004, it became a community center. Quickly became a community center. This brother right here, he can testify to it. One of my customers. Then, when they eliminated us, and it was an elimination, there was no corruption with Sister Space and Books. It's called gentrification. And once they got rid of us, they got rid of all the other people. And we kept telling people, if you don't rise up for us, you are next. Same thing happened. I know, I'm gonna, should I stop? I got 2 more points. Let me just say 2 more points and I'll just leave it.
But we're going to have questions.
Okay.
This is an all-female panel. We're going to
No,
have questions.
I can let it go. I can let it go. Go ahead, we can answer the questions. I can
there
let it go.
questions?
I don't know why I was put up here. Sinclair told me to get up here this morning.
Yes, sir. What's your question?
First, I'm Professor Oduno,
I see.
and I belong to the Black Women's Project.
That's right.
And the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project, and have done that my whole time in this city. If I had a question, I would like to ask, how do we connect the sustainability of family with what women do, what men do, what children do, from what we call the Negro Business League of 1901, 1902, that was when the women were involved, to what we're doing today. I'm really not asking a question. We probably should have had some people unpacking that, but what happened, let's give Brother John on the West Coast, because I think if we have to deal with how did women with families with children do what they did, and you see me with a button, not only with Nanny Helen Burroughs, it's not the individual, those are those women, not only with the button of this sister here, but we can't talk one thing, walk another thing. What would you want brothers to do, and what would you want sisters to do who follow brothers 180 degrees in the improper direction?
Well, I'll say on the global piece, when it comes to lacking access to capital, the largest concentration of global citizens are women and girls who lack access to some sort of account. So when you were talking earlier about focusing in on women and girls, I agree. On the financial inclusion space, there are plenty of organizations and institutions, and quite frankly, the way the financial literacy movement focuses in on women and girls and access to capital, I think the Bitcoin and BitChain community and society should come up with the same kind of initiative. GWAP, the African American woman who started that, I'm pretty sure she's going to focus on providing her her product to women and girls, and so.
Actually, majority of the master nodes are owned by women, and she really loves to focus on women and growing wealth for us. So that's really important. So if you want to support a movement, GWAPcoin would be a great place to start. Yes, if we could just get that one and that one really quickly, and then we'll answer it and we'll be done.
Sure. First, thank you for your time. Second, my question is, a lot of what I've heard today seems to try to connect blockchain and financial incentive or initiatives back to the traditional banking system. So we're still connected to the fiat currency. We're still connected to power systems that were never built for us. So do you foresee a future, and you mentioned like the IMF, and even just the mention of that name makes me wary about that initiative and those kinds of plans. They're the ones that created barriers in the first place.
And the debt.
So with that said, do you foresee the technology or even the mindset being transformed back to what we are more culturally originated or known for? What if we took that store of value outside of the fiat, back to things that are more native to our culture? Like, what if we link that back to the bauxite in Jamaica, and then Jamaicans can build their currency or their wealth off of that instead of trying to link it back to the U.S. dollar and other fiat currencies? And if you don't foresee it working that way, do you know of other companies or initiatives that are aligned with those values?
Yeah,
Thank you. Can
that's
we
one
just
of the
get the
reasons-
questions really
Okay.
quickly? The guy in the back, did you have a question? No? What's your question? Sir, yeah. Yeah, okay.
The system is already built. Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever that is, I don't believe it's a human being, but that's another question. When we start talking Visa, MasterCard, IMF, and other things, that's the whole system. Bitcoin has already been built. It's peer-to-peer.
Right.
It's a distributed ledger. And the most disruptive part of Bitcoin is that it can be utilized peer-to-peer without permission
Yep.
of governments.
Right.
So the thing is to utilize Bitcoin
Yeah.
to hodl Bitcoin and use it among ourselves rather than trying to give the whole ballgame back to the same people that we've been fighting for 500 years. So, trying to look at the bauxite, Bitcoins are based on a commodity. Bitcoin value comes from the mathematics on which it's based. So the system is already made, and I don't want us to get hooked into throwing the ball back in their court. And it's in our court, when all you have to do is get on a place where you can buy, whether that's at the ATM or whether it's BitConnect or whatever, and get your Bitcoin. And we start utilizing it ourselves to build our wealth inside of Bitcoin. So what I'm saying is, how do we start informing people that Bitcoin is how you have your own bank? We don't want them to have the bank. We want us to have the bank. The bank is already built.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the information. Information is power. And so I'm educating, which is what Sinclair asked, and John, to come here and talk about what is existing, what is happening. And if you're having the largest U.S. mainstream institutions focus on they are saying they're not focused on it. But on a global dynamics, they are. And so I'm coming to the Black Blockchain Summit saying, here's the education piece on what's happening. This is what the World Bank and the IMF is doing. This is what 30 of the wealthiest financial institutions around the world are focused on. And for black people and people of color in the Bitcoin and blockchain society, the platform is hot. If there's 1.7 billion citizens, and in sub-Saharan Africa alone, they are focused on mobile money and that transaction opportunity to have access to capital, then we who are focused in that area need to invest in it.
So I just want to introduce DACs, Decentralized Autonomous Communities. They're digital cooperatives that actually speak to everything that you're speaking about culturally. W.E.B. Du Bois documented there were 154 in the early 1900s, and that's how we were able to build wealth. Of course, they were decimated for a lot of different reasons. But through the blockchain, this is a way for us to create our own currency based on our own community values. And then we get to control that economy, such as we get to say what kind of inflation it has and what to do with the inflation. We can distribute it throughout our community. And that's what I specialize in. Decentralized autonomous communities. They're digital cooperatives. So we don't really need to actually use a Bitcoin at all. We can use Guapcoin, or we can create in our own communities our own coin and give it our own value and have it act in the ways that we know are beneficial to our own people. And so that is something that I implore you to investigate and to learn. If you want to see what a DAC looks like right now, EOS DAC, EOS DAC. I think it's either .io or .com. They are a DAC. You can see what it looks like. It's a membership. You get to vote for who is administering it. You get to see all the financials. It's super transparent. It's a really wonderful tool, DACs on the blockchain. So I think for the sister in the back, that's a good way to, like, you know, I hope I'm answering your question. And I hope in terms of us moving forward and thinking about creating economies based on our culture, this is one beautiful avenue that circumvents all banks, all major corporations, and is really a wonderful focus on what we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful panel. Can we give them a round of applause? So we'll immediately go into our next panel, which is enhancing blockchain education and skills in Black communities. So could we have our panelists up? Isaiah, Alston, Matthias, Matthias, Pascal. Yeah.
Hey, Lee. Let's go. Oh, yeah, I will. Definitely. All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get this panel started. Yes, so the enhancing blockchain education and skills in Black communities panel. My name is Isaiah Jackson. I'm the author of Bitcoin in Black America, and I'm also the founder of the Blockchain Project. And I will let the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll get into some questions.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me here. My name is Austin Clark. I am a recent graduate of Howard University. I studied computer science. Here I also co-founded the Howard University Blockchain Lab. Before college, I was homeschooled from birth until entering university. And I definitely want to talk about how taking control of our own educational frontier can improve and shorten the skills gap inside the Black community. I'm looking forward to chatting with you all today.
No,
My bad.
my name is Matthias Abdissa, and I'm originally from Ethiopia, which is in East Africa. I came here like probably 10 years ago and did my master's in computer science. Background is mainly like in engineering and also building my own startups. I had software as a service as well as e-commerce companies. In late 2016, I heard about Bitcoin, blockchain and Ethereum, and started exploring, the space. Right now, recently I worked for the Blockchain University as a product manager, where we used to teach new engineers to come and build on Ethereum, Hyperledger, and EOS. Right now, I work for the stablecoin company called Reserve as an ambassador for Africa. That's my background.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pascal Samar. I'm here representing Coincentrix Capital. Basically, we started off 3 years ago as a outreach and research technology firm. In relations to education, we received a grant from Zcash, and we purposely decided to focus on the African American community. We basically did a 6-month research on probing different HBCUs, in total 6. Howard University was one of them, just to get a sense of how much knowledge the average Black student have of what is happening in the decentralized world. So that's a little bit of me and Coincentrix Capital.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so we'll get into some questions here. I know you want to hear this panel talk about it. So let's start with the kids, because we know kids are the future. So at the lower grade levels, what blockchain skills do you think should be taught to junior, middle, and high school students?
I think I'll jump in. I think that having an awareness of technology from a basic level is what is the most important thing. I'm less concerned that middle school students are building on the blockchain than I am that they have the understanding of what blockchain is beyond cryptocurrency. Because that right there is what's going to spark the interest. So when they get into college, they'll say, hey, I remember blockchain from middle school, and this is not something that I am intimidated in. It's something that I've been having the consciousness of it for a long time, so I'm going to go ahead and dive deeper into it.
Absolutely. You can take the same question as well.
Sure. I think I agree with what he said. And in addition to that, maybe introducing maybe say, blockchain games might help, students build maybe their own games, or even play another one to understand the concept of blockchain. But beside that, having the basic skills of computer science, how to program, and also starting from ideation phase, building prototype, and all those things should be taught.
Absolutely. And same to you, sir.
Yeah, I think it's already happening naturally. I think this whole decentralized technology looks very similar to what is called the sharing economy or sharing concepts. And I think the next generation is what is going to push it to be accepted widely. Concepts that are being utilized now by Airbnb and Uber, are going to move from just cars to sharing homes to sharing different types of things, right? And I think that culture alone is going to create a big opportunity for the decentralized market.
Absolutely. Yes, and as a former assistant and teacher for the Crypto Kids Camp in Inglewood, California, I do want to say teaching kids about blockchain, AI, coding, all those things, they help in the future that we want to see. So definitely summer camps is a good way, because in the school system, you can't really teach it there. As a former public school teacher, you have very stringent, tight rules. If you're doing a summer camp, you have more flexibility. You can do more things, more activities, meet people. So definitely a good way for kids to get into blockchain.
I want to add one more thing on this. And every time we talk about blockchain, at some point of time, we may mention about Bitcoin. So for kids to understand Bitcoin, probably they might need to understand how money works. So teaching them this interconnected things would be helpful as well.
Absolutely. All right, so moving forward, let's see. How do we aggregate our knowledge for a central location of education? Or blockchain education, I should say. Looks like I stumped him.
Oh,
and it's open.
I mean,
it's open. Yeah.
Personally, I would discourage centralizing information. I would encourage more creativity. I like what is happening specifically in the Black community. You have a lot of evangelists, a lot of companies that are springing up, and that is good because it by itself it creates some sense of competition. And so far as we keep it in a friendly way, we would all benefit from it.
I agree with that, yeah. I wouldn't necessarily look to create a centralized location for all this information to reside. Instead, I would kind of look for collaboration amongst communities of people who are learning and teaching blockchain. Because I think as new technologies come out, there's always going to be evangelists or people who are doing it in the early days who have already amassed so much information. So instead of reinventing the wheel, finding those people and tapping into their networks is the way to go. And even beyond blockchain, right? In 2019, we're talking about blockchain, but in 20 years from now, there may be a whole new technology. Well, there definitely will be a whole new technology that comes out. And we can't learn what that technology is right now because we can't look into the future. But what we can learn is how to learn and how to learn fast. And I think this gets to the heart of the question you're asking is, how do we create learning communities that are scalable, that can rapidly grab hold of information and spread it throughout the network?
Absolutely. And I would love to hear, like I said, long-term something come about, but you're right, collaboration, definitely. And using collaboration along with college, I want to pose the question to you all. Should HBCUs create a consortium of blockchain groups to collaborate together?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So if anybody here has contact with the Howard University Blockchain Group, I believe Morgan State may have one.
Here, yeah.
Yes, my guy in the back. Yep. So that contact has to be made, like today or tomorrow. If we could somehow get an email list or a way to contact it, let's do it, get it done. So yes, this will be the last question for the panel. What type of money do you think can be made by black people by learning blockchain skills?
Can you ask that again?
Yes. What type of money can be made by black people by learning blockchain skills?
A lot.
Well, I guess I should say in comparison to the what we have now. Is it better to learn blockchain now and to use it, or is it better to stick with what you got and then use blockchain later, I should say?
I think I would say like if the opportunity is really good right now because it's a new space. Even if it's been like 10 years, we can learn a lot. And I feel like there are also like new spaces being created in the blockchain space itself. For example, like decentralized finance is something that came like almost a year ago, right? So I kind of like suggest learning now. Some of the things we could learn, it could be if you want to get like technical, maybe like we can learn about like cryptography, like computer science, and also game theory. And probably like understanding also design patterns might help.
Absolutely. Now shoot it to you at the end, Pascal.
Yeah, I think what is most essential is some of it we have control over and some others we do not directly have control over. But I think someone in the panel already mentioned on investing in more software development, basically putting a lot more products. The technology itself is so complicated. You can have an elevator conversation and somebody walks out and knows what to do, right? So we need to put products in front of people that solve specific issues within our communities, which we're all aware of. And I think once people have a good incentive to use those products, that's all it takes. They will do the research so far as they save money or make money, that's going to happen. The piece of it which we have no control over directly is investing in education. There isn't a lot of investment in education in black communities globally in general. Finding capital for this niche product in the blockchain space is even 100 times harder. The only solution for that is for the community to invest in that education. I think there are several people within the black community that are educators. Supporting them would go a long way.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I will open the floor up now for 2 questions. We'll get the first 2 questions, and we'll go from there. Yes, sir.
In a panel earlier, my partner David was talking about the fact that jobs are being displaced, and now I don't want to say the older, but the more mature workers have to reskill. So you talk a lot about educating children, but how do you educate a more mature workforce where, say, my father can send me a blockchain, could you work curse one day? Because right now, a lot of education is being pointed to the ones coming up. What about those of us who don't know blockchain from cryptocurrency, from anything else? So how would you educate the more mature folks who want to learn, but also folks who want to reskill for better job opportunities?
Indeed, I think that certifications is definitely one way to demonstrate knowledge in that area, but of course it's easier said than done. I work as a data engineer, right? And I'm coming in as a cloud. All the stuff that I develop is on the cloud. But the generations before me, it was like all physical servers. So I'm coming in with this awareness of cloud. This is just all that I know. But I know that the workers, a lot of the employees that were developing on-prem systems, there are not that many jobs out for that skill set because it's evolved past there. And from what I'm seeing in the industry is that people who are able to stay flexible by either getting certifications or by tinkering around in new technologies, they're the ones that are having an easier time adapting and catching on to it. So I think that like online classes, like OpenCourseWare, I think that's a good avenue that's self-paced for people to kind of like retool and reskill themselves to stay current in the industry.
I can add on that. Another way I could see is also boot camps. For example, I don't know if you heard about there's this school called Lambda School in Silicon Valley where you have no computer science experience in the past. It doesn't matter, how old you are. They probably take a lot of students and teach them not blockchain but other computer science courses. But the same thing can happen, for blockchain courses. But still, we might need to understand the basics of computer science. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we'll move to one last question, and we'll wrap it up here. Yes, sir.
I would say, I don't know if you would agree with me, I think the easiest way in dealing with education with blockchain is to get a child a wallet and give them some Bitcoin and let them run with it. Certification, education, all that kind of stuff, that's old paradigm stuff. Let them deal with the actual product itself. And see, the thing that we don't understand is blockchain is embedded within nature. DNA is blockchain. That's how human beings come to the earth. So the thing that we need to do is get out of the way of this and utilize the product peer-to-peer. We keep talking about this corporation and that corporation and this and that. And we start utilizing it one to other. And I start, okay, look at this conference. I mean, I should be able to play with Bitcoin to come to this conference. Give them a blockchain.
Okay.
So I got a blockchain conference and not utilize the blockchain to make the conference.
Okay. Well,
It's
I
not
will
not
say,
economical sometimes.
yeah, I was gonna say, I will say, I'll put the suggestion in as well. So they will accept Bitcoin for the drinks for tips later. So that, as well as, I promise you that's coming because I made sure I asked them that. Because I asked last year. I tried to tip in Bitcoin and she didn't even know what I was talking about. So I definitely have to get that in there. But as far as the education portion, my man was talking about adult education. With the kids, I agree with you. Peer-to-peer, that's why we do the summer camp. We give them cryptocurrency. They get it. For adults, however, I do think certifications are good, but you're right. If they directly get cryptocurrency and then use it, I think you're correct. That's a better learning way. Absolutely.
I can spend it for stuff.
You're good, right? Perfect. That's exactly what we have to do. So from here forward, that is a way to get everybody involved with blockchain. I will say podcasts. I don't know if anybody has videos or whatnot. That helps as well. But exactly. So any of those, make sure you listen to that audiobooks on blockchain and who you listen to.
And also, my man has a book out there in the back that's very good for blockchain education. Check it out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to tune into that. But yes, so in conclusion, if anybody on the panel has anything else to say, you can go ahead and say it now. We can.
I would say, I think a lot of people are pressured by the technicality, and in all reality, you do not need to know that much, right? All of the systems we use right now, like Cash App and all of that, we cannot describe what happens in the back end, but we use it. So I think what is most imperative in our community is to build solutions, and solutions that actually solve problems, and solutions that have an incentive behind them.
Thank you for that, Pascal. And I believe we're going to wrap it up here. One last one.
Yeah, one last
Okay.
All right. You're talking about teaching the youth about Bitcoin and blockchain. How do we make it attractive to the youth? Because, back in the 90s, I was a kid. I was in elementary school. I was playing with the computer, but I never thought to build on the computer, I never thought of, it wasn't really attractive to me. So how do you make that attractive to young little black children, that this is something that they should use without intentionally letting them know that this is very important to your future?
I think it comes down to pairing that with some of their innate interests. Right? So for me, as a young person, I was interested in cryptocurrency because I just wanted to make money, and that was exciting to me. And I think for a lot of people, the reason why they got into cryptocurrency was not to use it peer-to-peer, but to put it in the market, let it grow, and then take it out. So that was the exciting part. And if that's what's exciting to kids, then we have to teach them and dive into the finance aspect of it. But if the kid is into gaming, then we have to show them the gaming aspect of it, and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. And we will wrap up our panel now. I want to thank you all of our panelists. Thank you all.
Thank you, Isaiah. Give them another round of applause, everybody. Isaiah, Pascal, Matthias, and Austin. Yeah. And I think you just you download it on your iPhone, right? And then you can solve all these problems. Okay. All right. Now we're moving right along. You may have seen this flyer on your chair or around the way. And there's a QR code right here. You can scan that code on your iPhone. It'll take you to the website. It says, help Free Ross sign the petition. Go to the website with the scan code. But here to fill us in is Lynn Albright. Give her a nice hand, everybody. Oh, to the next one. The professor did. Oh.
Yeah, so let's go to the top. Yeah. And so, just you then? Or enter on the computer? Yeah, that's working. How do I go back? Okay. Okay. Great. All right. You guys ready for me? My son, Ross Ulbricht, was given a double life sentence plus... Thank you. My son, Ross Ulbricht, was given a double life sentence plus 40 years without parole. So what did he do? Is he a mass murderer? Did he bomb a building? Did he run a child trafficking ring? Not even close. He's in there because of a website called Silk Road that he created, and that was a website that emphasized privacy and used Bitcoin as the only means of exchange. And he was never charged with causing any death or bodily injury. No victims were named at trial. It's for a website, and it was really the first proof of use of Bitcoin, where it demonstrated that Bitcoin could actually be used as money. And for that reason, he has been called the second most important figure in Bitcoin's history after Satoshi. And many people have told me that without Ross's vision and what happened on Silk Road, that it proved Bitcoin was money, none of us would be here today. There would be no Bitcoin. It would be the plaything of geeks and very obscure, and most people wouldn't have heard of it. Now, just to let you know about the site a little bit, it's kind of like eBay, but it only took Bitcoin, and it emphasized privacy. There were many legal things on there. This is from government's evidence, some of the things that were on there. However, there were drugs on there because it was considered a free choice. It was mostly, almost overwhelmingly, small amounts of cannabis. Nothing that created a victim or hurt a third party was permitted, because it was based on the non-aggression principle. It was all voluntary. So, for example, there no stolen property, no child pornography, and no violent products or services were permitted. So, why did the government come down so hard? And I think it was because of the Bitcoin. People say Bitcoin is a lot of things. It's a currency, it's a store of value, it's a scam, but it's also a philosophy. It is a revolutionary idea. And Ross wrote about it in an essay that he called Bitcoin Equals Freedom. And he wrote about the early adopters, himself being one. And he said, they dreamed of a future where the economic power of the world is accessible to everyone. And of course, we've been talking about that all day today. Where value can be transferred anywhere with a keystroke. They dreamed of prosperity and freedom. And I think it was this revolutionary idea that was very threatening. Someone on a panel earlier said, Bitcoin will destroy the banks. Well, banks don't like that. You know, the financial powers do not like that kind of thing. And I think its philosophy of monetary freedom was very threatening. The judge, this is a quote from her sentencing, she made it very clear that she understood that it was a philosophical project, and she found that very troubling and dangerous. And she said, I don't know if it's a philosophy left behind, so I guess I need to keep you in a cage for the rest of your life, a walking death sentence for this. So I want to also read an excerpt from an essay Ross wrote that's in the Bitcoin magazine that's in your tote bag that you got for their 10th anniversary. It's on this page. And he talks about how Bitcoin, and it's very much aligned with the vision of this conference, he talks about how the Bitcoin technology can repair injustices and revolutionize the globe into a more equitable society and more opportunity for more people who right now are shut out. And in it, he says, Bitcoin needs us to continue guiding it with the values it was founded on that gave it its potential. We must keep our focus on decentralization, privacy, and empowering individuals. It is a technology with the power to make abstractions like peace and equality into reality. But it's up to us to embody such ideals and be role models for the ever-growing Bitcoin community and for Bitcoin itself. And as has been addressed, there are 2 billion people on the planet who are shut out of banks and the opportunity to have loans. You know, it's pretty hard to start a business or buy a house if you can't get a loan. And Bitcoin can provide a way to lead people into a more financially inclusive future. And again, I think this is the revolutionary idea, and this alternative currency is why Ross has been basically made an example of by the government to stop other people from doing it. It didn't work, but I think that's what it was. And I really became convinced of this because all the other defendants in the case got 10 years or less. This includes the biggest drug seller on the site, who's in the top left. He got 10 years. It includes 2 corrupt federal agents who, well, there's a whole long story about that. But there's a lot of corruption in the investigation. And it includes Blake Benthall, who ran Silk Road 2, which was, according to the government itself, identical but much larger. He got no prison time at all. And then there's my son at the bottom right, 2 life sentences plus 40 years. This is from the BOP. Ross's release date says life. It should say death. And Blake Benthall, who ran the bigger site, never did jail time. He did 13 days, well, prison time. He did 13 days in custody. He's out. So it's about, I really believe it's about the Bitcoin. And then it came out about a year ago that the NSA, the full power of the federal government, was so concerned about Bitcoin that it used the NSA to track down Bitcoin users a few months before the takedown of Silk Road and Ross's arrest. So there's so much to the story. I mean, the case is very complicated. I can't go into it all. But as I mentioned, there are corrupt agents that could act as the administrator and mess with the site. They stole 20,000 Bitcoin. There's proof of tampered evidence that was used against Ross in the trial. This was discovered after trial. Also discovered after trial was that someone else was using the DPR, the top admin account. There's a lot of evidence that there were many people running it. And then they also, and they do this, the government does this routinely, I've been told, and I know of cases where, including cases, well, a lot of different cases, where people are smeared with false allegations, often murder for hire. It's one of their favorites. It was actually, Ross was smeared with this, and it was actually a plot the material was provided by the corrupt agent who's now in prison that I showed you his picture a minute ago. And also and then all the charges were dropped. But by then, the sentence had been justified with it, and lots of other things happened. So he was railroaded, basically, and we came up with, based on the public record, it's on our website, it's called Railroaded, and if you want to learn more, you can go there and dig as deep as you want. But basically, there's so much wrong with it, and it puts us all in peril when this kind of thing happens in our justice system. So Ross was railroaded right into prison, and right into a maximum security prison, even though his security score was so low he should be in a camp. He's totally nonviolent. There's no violent charges. He has no criminal history, nothing. He organized this photo of himself and some fellow prisoners who are all serving life for non-violent drug charges. And we talked about the drug war earlier on another panel. The government has weaponized the drug war against people, and certainly in black communities, but against anyone they can get. And these guys are serving life. Tony, who's in the back row, third from the left, it's for marijuana. And this federal prison happens to be in Colorado, where at a state level it's legal, but he's on federal land. He's serving life, no violence whatsoever. This is terrible. This is a horrible thing that's going on. Here I am visiting that prison. That's a sniper tower behind me, and then 3 layers of razor wire. And it was creepily reminiscent of another place I visited. I was on a speaking tour of Eastern Europe, and ended up at Auschwitz. This is the Nazi concentration camp in Poland. And I overheard a tour guide say to his group, he said, "The lesson here is watch your politicians. This wasn't that long ago." And I would say, watch your government, because this is happening right now. Ever since the war on drugs, the prison population has metastasized 800%. Over 60% of prisoners are nonviolent drug offenders and immigration offenders. Over 60%. It's huge business. They use over-sentencing, these excessive sentences, to keep people in there, making money off them for lifetimes. Here, life sentences have quintupled since the 80s and the drug war. When I was growing up, hardly anybody got life. I mean, you'd have to be a mass murdering maniac to get life. And now there's over 17,000 nonviolent people serving life in our prisons. So, here we are, national disgrace, a humanitarian crisis that the United States of America, is the largest incarcerator in the world. It's because of the drug war, they're using the drug war to do that. So, like so many other people, thousands of other people, my son is growing older in prison. Here he is on the left, before he was arrested, and now he's in prison. But so many people. It's not unique at all. And of course, and he's no threat to anyone. He should be here talking to all of you, talking about the blockchain, all the exciting things. He would have a lot to contribute. And that's true of so many of the people in there. And not only their families are deprived of them, their children are deprived of them, and society is. And I talked to a woman at the prison. I get to know the families, of course. We all do get to know each other that are visiting. And she said, before this happened, my kids were getting straight A's. I was holding it together. We had a great family. And now everything is falling apart in our family. And what happens is these kids are more likely to end up in prison too, So that just keeps the inventory coming into this monster, this mass incarceration monster that is devouring people. It's really un-American and evil what's going on. I want to read one more thing. I want to read something that Ross wrote about this. You can tell he's writing a lot in prison. And it's about prison. And he talks about how it's called Who Deserves This? And he talks about how the system is based on vengeance. It's not about rehabilitation. It is not correctional. They love to call themselves correctional. It's not correctional. And he said that he went around and talked to his fellow prisoners, and he said, so if you had a choice for being tortured, literally tortured, for a finite time, or doing a long time in prison, which would you pick? And they all picked torture. It basically is torture. And so I just wanted to read this part. Vengeance and cruelty are not aspects of our nature to be honored and institutionalized. They are base and destructive. They hurt all parties. Our families and communities are hurting. Humanity is hurting. The pain of your fellow human being is your pain too, even though it is locked away in remote prisons. We can do better. We have the potential to rise above this darkness, to be proud of how humanely we treat prisoners and how few we need to brand with that label. Instead, we hand out years, decades, and lifetimes of imprisonment to virtually every person the government targets. We keep building cells like the one I'm writing this from. And he concludes, prisoners are not inventory. We are not numbers or statistics. We are human beings, and we don't deserve this. So this is an important case. It's a high-profile case, and it sets a precedent. It sets a precedent for cryptocurrency, people involved in cryptocurrency. There are many people who are in prison because of activities with Bitcoin. And also it sets a precedent for these excessive sentences. And that kind of precedent filters down to less high-profile cases. The courts rely on precedent. They go, oh, well, he got that sentence. Well, yeah, you're going to get that too. And this cuts across all races, all aspects of all communities. And it really needs to stop. You know, it's un-American. It's against our values and our morals to do this kind of thing. So we're really all here today, at least there's a case that can be made because of Ross's vision. And we're pursuing cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all its potential because of that. So as was mentioned, we have a online petition. Please sign it. Please go and sign our petition. It takes less than a minute, and we already have over 200,000 signers. My goal is 500,000. I want to be able to go to the president and say, 500,000 people care about this. Please consider commuting this sentence, correcting this sentence. If that happens, it will again filter down and help other people who are being over-sentenced. Also, here we are in Washington, D.C. If anybody has connections in this town, in Washington, politically in any way, please let me know. I'm trying to get to the president and call his attention to this case. And my son, you know, we're all here enjoying this. He's in a cage fighting for his life, as so many others are, and I speak out about everyone who's suffering from this every time I speak. We're hoping that his case will shine a light on all those people. So please go to the website. There's tons of information. There's ways to help and you know, spread the word on social media. You know, we're just one family with some help, and including from this conference in Sinclair. And so anyway, thank you for hearing me out and for having me. Thank you.
That's Lynn Albright, everybody. Give her another round of applause. God bless you. And go to the website, show some support. Up next, we've got, the topic is Bitcoin's value proposition. I want to know all about that. Let's have a big hand for Tone Bays, everybody. Or is it Tony?
Thank you. Let me pull up. There it is. All right. Working. Hey everyone, thank you for sticking around. I know it's starting to get late. I'm going to jump right into the presentation. Sinclair, thank you again for inviting me. I believe we met either earlier, I think we met last year at one of the events. But thank you. All right, guys, my name is Tom Vase. I don't want to spend too much time talking about myself. I do come from the traditional Wall Street environment. After a master's in financial engineering down in Florida, ended up working at Bear Stearns during the financial crisis, was a VP at JP Morgan, a couple of other companies. I quit all that in 2015, and but I got into Bitcoin around 2013. I'm a content creator. I have several conferences that I put together on Confiscatable, Understanding Bitcoin, and a very popular YouTube channel as well. So you can just, everything is under my name, tonevase.com, Tone Vase on Twitter, Tone Vase YouTube channel as well. All right, I'm going to jump right into the presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Bitcoin, where we are right now, and where it's all probably going. The background is the price chart of Bitcoin. I know I haven't updated this in a while. I did this in a very early 2019. We're definitely back to the $10,000 price. I like starting these presentations off with just to look at the white paper. You don't have to read the entire Bitcoin white paper, but this is what created everything. And almost everything you need to know is right there in the abstract. And you have to read the paper for the details. So I'm just going to read a quick part of the abstract. Digital signatures provide a part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. The word double spending will become important. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. So the title of the paper was Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So Satoshi created money on the internet. He actually didn't create money on the internet. He solved the double spending problem, something computer scientists have almost given up on and said it was going to be impossible. What is the computer science double spending problem? You all deal with data all the time. Use your cell phone, you send messages, you send Word documents, you send pictures. You're sending digital data. But all the digital data that you send, there's always multiple, identical, infinite copies of that data. The text message that you send, you have a copy of that message. The picture that you send, you have a copy of that picture. The solution to the double spending problem was, how do I send the digital data and I lose possession of that data? That was the problem that he solved. The word blockchain was nowhere in Satoshi's white paper. We're going to talk a little bit later about where that came from. So that was the solution. And he realized by allowing people to now send digital data and lose possession of that data, that data itself, that's going to be the value. And he decided to give it a finite number of these data pieces, which he didn't have to do, but he did in order to incentivize the system and anticipate the price of this digital data to rise. We're going to talk about that as well. So that paper was published at the end of October of 2008. The first Bitcoin block was mined on January 3rd, 2009. For an entire year of Bitcoin's existence, it had no value. So it cost money to create Bitcoin by using your electricity and deteriorating your computer, and you're mining Bitcoins that currently didn't have any value. It started to get some value in 2010, and the price was about 10 cents. The price jumped from 10 cents to 50 cents at the very end of 2010 with the first suggested use case for Bitcoin, and that was a suggestion that WikiLeaks should accept it for donations. This was mentioned in our very first presentation today, where one of the Bitcoin developers at the time, Amir Taki, suggested that WikiLeaks start using Bitcoin because Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal had cut off WikiLeaks from accepting donations. And this first proposed use case was basically an example of Bitcoin's censorship-resistant value transfer. The fact that it's uncensorable. You can send something of value to anyone at any time, and there's nothing that any government can do to stop it. WikiLeaks did not initially start using it back in 2010, and Satoshi came out and said, hey, this is not a good idea, it's going to give it too much attention, it's so new, technologically not ready. So they listened. But the first actual use of this, as Lynn mentioned, was Silk Road. Silk Road launched in February of 2011, a few months after the suggested use case, and that created the first commercial use of the use case of being censorship-resistant value transfer. And people were using Bitcoin to purchase things on Silk Road, and Lynn showed the graphic of what kind of things are being purchased.